Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics arcana and commentary. In this episode, I'm looking at X-Men number 8, cover dated May 1992, and this comic cost $1.25. So the cover here is by Jim Lee and Art Thibert. In fact, I looked this up, and the signature, which you can't otherwise see on the cover, is underneath this notice, special appearance by Ghost Rider. I like the concept for the cover, which features the little cameo by Ghost Rider, who appears at the end of the comic. So a nice way of telegraphing that he's going to turn up at some point in the inside story. Now, the main figure here on the cover is a new character, Bishop, whose first appearance was in Uncanny X-Men 282, and who in the previous month's issue of Uncanny X-Men, that is 287, was accepted into the X-Men by Professor X, and he is taken into the Gold team, which is the team that's led by Storm. So this particular story shows Bishop on his first day at the X-Mansion as a new X-Man, and he gets into conflict with Gambit. So the cover here is fairly dramatic. It seems to indicate that he shot Gambit. That doesn't actually happen on the inside of the comic, but it nearly does. Anyway, so let's open this one up. And we see here the first page is a follow-up to the previous 4-part storyline, where Wolverine learned a little bit more about his confusing and mysterious past. So Wolverine doesn't 100% remember his past, but he is investigating it now and trying to find out from the computer systems in Berlin what might be there in regards to shedding light on who he was in the past. And then on the splash page here, half a splash page, we see Professor X in his hover chair, Storm and Bishop joining the X-Men. So he's getting introduced to everyone, Forge there. And the thing about Bishop is he comes from 100 years in the X-Men's future, and he comes from a dystopian future in which the X-Men were betrayed and died. And he's a member of a corps called the XSE, who are kind of like versions of the judges in Judge Dredd. They're judge, jury, and executioner of criminal mutants. So Bishop knows things from his timeline that refer to what might happen in this particular timeline that he arrived in at the end of Uncanny X-Men 282. So over the page here we have this anchor image of the X-Men, primarily X-Men Blue Team, but Jean Grey Marvel Girl is also there. And so Bishop is stunned by seeing these legendary figures from his time in the flesh. And one of them, of course, is Gambit. And in Uncanny X-Men 287, Bishop, we saw Bishop having an interview with a figure called The Witness, who looks remarkably like a very aged version of Gambit. But it's a big mystery as to how Gambit could be alive 100 years in the future, and also how and why he would have psi powers, because in the scene presented in 287, he has telepathic powers and is able to read Bishop's mind. So The Witness was the last person to see the X-Men alive, and Bishop starts to think that Gambit must have been the one who betrayed the X-Men. And so there's aggro and tension between them here. Also, he reveals Gambit's name, LeBeau, Remy LeBeau. So Gambit isn't pleased about that too. So there's tension between them, but it's diffused a little by Storm. Then we have this half scene with Wolverine, where he is expressing to Professor X how confused he is about his past, finding out half my memories might be bogus. Was I a spy, a samurai, or just a sawed-off psycho killer with adamantium claws? So Professor X says, today you're an X-Men, and that has to count for something. So Wolverine is pondering on that. Then the scene switches to the X-Men relaxing by the lake on the grounds of Professor X's property. There is a lake, so we see Psylocke there having a swim. We see Jubilee hula hooping, and Jean is trying to get Cyclops' attention when he's distracted by Psylocke in her swimsuit, and he gets into some trouble with Jean over that. And then the scene switches to Bishop, who once again is in dialogue with Storm, and Storm is telling him, look, things were one way in the future, but you've got to calm down now. Gambit has been a member of our team for a number of months, and we pretty much trust him, so chill out about Gambit. Then the scene switches to Gambit and Rogue finally having that picnic, that date that was interrupted rudely by the Hand Assassins and Omega Red at the end of X-Men number 4. So there's some flirting going on between Gambit and Rogue there, and then Rogue runs right into Bishop, and we get this fight between Bishop and Gambit. Bishop punches Gambit out there. We also see here, this issue is once again, it's plotted by Jim Lee, pencils by Jim Lee, but finishes on some pages by Art Thibert and finishes on some other pages by Jim Lee. So this page in particular looks a little rushed. One of the indications of that is you see here Gambit has some stubble. He's got some stubble in this panel, but none here. So that's an indication of how fast this page must have been inked in order to get the comic to the printers on time. So what happens here is that Gambit starts using his power to kinetically charge up objects to defend himself, and one of the objects he picks up is this pie that Rogue baked for the picnic, and he throws it at Bishop, but it hits Rogue in the face and she goes bananas. So anyway, it diffuses the situation between Bishop and Gambit, who both laugh at what's happened to Rogue, but they're nervous somewhat because Rogue is a pretty powerful figure and she's pretty annoyed by what's happened to her pie. Okay, and so then things seem to be cooling down, and then there's this sudden intervention by this new character who comes out of nowhere, attacks all of them, and says that she's got business with Gambit. And Gambit pulls back Bishop from attacking the woman, and reveals in this last panel on the page that this particular character is his wife. So Gambit is another one of these figures who has a mysterious past that is now getting explored in these current issues. So this is a bit of a shock for Rogue in particular. And here we are in the X-Men War Room, where the woman reveals herself to be Donna Bordreaux, and she is a member of the guild of assassins, or rather the not the guild, but the what's the word that's used there? let's see, clan or guild. Anyway, the Guild of Assassins, and Gambit is a member of the Guild of Thieves, and that the two families were at war with each other. So someone suggested that these two get married in order to relieve the tensions and build some kind of harmony between the two families. And then we get the history told by Gambit concerning their marriage, and how one of his new brothers-in-law was a political activist and wanted to foment some political kind of purposes, but Gambit killed him in a duel, and this meant then that Gambit had to leave, go into exile in effect. But now Belladonna has come looking for him to take responsibility for what he did and try to heal the division and conflict between the two families back in New Orleans. So the X-Men are going to go on a trip to New Orleans, and so they're all getting ready there, and Wolverine arrives and says he's going to accompany them too. And then the scene switches to Louisiana and the border of New Orleans, and we see this traffic cop who is going after something that passes him at 120 miles an hour on his speedometer. And who does it turn out to be except Ghost Rider? So as the text says, next issue, what do you think? It's going to be the X-Men and Ghost Rider in New Orleans. So that is what we will be looking at in the next video. So I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you again soon.